Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 50 of the In From Japan podcast, the podcast where we talk about the latest news on Japan-developed games and other things in relation to them. Available on YouTube, Spotify, Podbean, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. I'm your host, Erroll, and with me, as always, is my co-host, the phenomenon from Suriname, Jason Coiter.
Hey.
And this is actually our last regular episode for 2020. So, yay, we made it through 50 weeks of this.
Actually, more than 50, if you include the special episodes.
But those were recorded the same weeks.
I mean, the audience doesn't know that.
Okay, audience, forget I said anything.
Yeah.
Anyways, we're going to start with the, as we always do, with the Japanese games we've been playing. And I finished Yakuza 7 this morning.
Finally,
I could play something else. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it's my game of the year. It's still my game of the year.
Okay.
So good.
What are you stacking it up against to say it's your game of the year?
Hades. Spider-Man Miles Morales. I'm trying to think.
Did
what else?
you play Ghost of Tsushima?
I did not play Ghost of Tsushima, and I have no interest in it. I refuse to play Cyberpunk, and I haven't played Neo 2 yet.
Have you played?
But it's a Souls game, so I don't think it's not gonna beat Yakuza 7 when the Yakuza 7 is a Yakuza game that's also Dragon Quest.
Okay. Have you played?
That's too hard to beat.
Have you played The Last of Us Part 2?
Yes, and that is, I don't even know if that's on my top 10.
Okay. So, what makes Yakuza 7 your game of the year?
Okay, first of all, the gameplay. I love that. I mean, it's turn-based, yeah, but it also has the button prompts. So it's almost like Paper Mario-ish in a way, but not as a little more straightforward. Like, you're just pressing square or triangle. You're not doing a like moving the analog stick
it's more
like a
in line with
or something.
It's more in line with quick time events instead of having it be more like you're winding up a toy in Paper Mario.
Yeah, and it's not like it's like super difficult. Some attacks, the timing is a little tricky, but most of the time it's just like, okay, press triangle like at the right time and you can get it, or press square a bunch of times.
So quick time events.
Yeah, but I just don't feel like, I don't feel like there's a sense of urgency as like, because if I've missed them a few times and still done a good amount of damage, so it's like it doesn't, at least from my experience, it didn't feel like I got punished for messing up.
Okay.
At least not much.
Okay.
Also, the story is great. Ichiban's, I really like his protagonist. Monty's right, he's a total himbo.
Yeah.
But like, he's great. Kaiji Tang, a great performance from the whole cast, really.
Okay.
And that's good, like, cause like they didn't start dubbing these games until, I believe, Fist of the North Star was the first. Ironically, was the first RGG studio game to get a dub.
Well, technically, the first Yakuza on PlayStation 2.
Oh, the first one since the first Yakuza, I mean.
Okay.
Right. Mark Hamill as Goro Majima.
Yeah, but
right.
Having played through Yakuza 7 now, does this make you eager to revisit the older Yakuza games?
I mean, not so much, because I don't feel like you have to play the other Yakuza games to get this one. There's a little stuff as you get closer to the end where you'll get a little more context if you've played through all the Yakuza games, but it's not like, it doesn't feel like a requirement to me, and also that gameplay has never really been much of my style.
But I'm not talking as in terms of it being required viewing or playing, but more in the sense of, do you want to experience more of this world, more of the story?
I mean, only if it's turn-based.
Okay.
Well, I might still play. I still want to play Yakuza 0 because I own it. So it's like I might do like 0, Kiwami, and Kiwami 2 at some point. I might do all of them at some point because they're all going to be on Game Pass.
Okay.
So it's like, why not?
Sure. Like a low barrier of entry. And from what the community says, Kiwami 2 is kind of the high point of that saga. Yeah.
And I was listening to GameSpot After Dark, what was it, like a week or two ago?
Mm-hmm.
And Michael and Jean-Luc were saying how, I forgot who, well, one of them was saying how they were talking to somebody else about how, like, what if they use this system for Judgment 2? Because in Judgment, you kind of already have a party of characters.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, yeah, that would be interesting. Because my problem with Judgment, again, was the combat. I loved the story, but I couldn't really get into it because of the combat.
Well, I'd say you don't have to pay attention too much to the combat. It's fun for what it is, but you could just like mentally put it on a back burner and be in it for the story. Because when I'm playing Yakuza 0, it's not that I'm thinking of, oh, I can't wait to get to the next encounter. I'm thinking, oh, how does the story progress? How does Majima's plot intertwine with Kiryu's plot, for example?
And then there were just a lot of twists and turns that I didn't expect. They weren't like these huge revelations. It was just like, it's like, oh, then this guy did this, and then this thing happened, and then this.
Speaking of Judgment, I think they're probably going to split this series in two. Like one series, probably the main series, being the turn-based RPG that you're accustomed to now with Yakuza 7, and then have the Judgment series, quote unquote, be the straightforward brawler
gameplay. Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah. So do you think that would be, I wouldn't want to say wise, but do you think that'd be preferable? Like I
mean, they could do it that way, they could do it the other way around. As long as they keep the style of gameplay for something, I'm happy,
Okay.
I don't want them to be one and done with this style, because, like, people like this game, and they said if people didn't like it, they'd go right back and they wouldn't mind. But people really liked this one.
Okay, I'm really curious then, because I haven't played it yet, so I'm curious if it also having turn-based RPG mechanics will be a big enough hook for me to say, oh, you know what? There's no going back. This is how Yakuza should be from now on. Yeah.
Well, because like Ian was saying a couple weeks ago, like the QuickTime event stuff is taken from the other Yakuza games, technically, with the button presses.
There are instances in brawls where you have to do like a QuickTime event, or in semi story cutscenes where your button prompt kind of dictates how the scene progresses.
Yeah. They really did a good job, like, making a hybrid of, like, Yakuza and a more traditional JRPG and mixing those two elements together.
Okay, I'm happy you've enjoyed it, yeah.
And it got me way in the feels several times.
I mean, so, Yakuza is known for its emotional storytelling, despite it being centered around gangsters.
Or ex-gangsters.
Well, gangsters, ex-gangsters.
I don't want to get... Oh, yeah, if I talk about it anymore, I'll get into spoiler territory.
Okay.
I haven't been playing anything else this week, I don't think... No, I have not.
Okay.
Because I've been focusing on finishing Yakuza 7 before this podcast.
Okay. How many hours did you end up putting into it?
I don't know.
Doesn't it have a counter? But I did grind
a lot. I was about... When I finished the game, I was about level 71. I'm not sure what the recommended level is, but I had to grind a lot for a particular boss that was giving me trouble.
I saw Rami Ismail tweet about the final section and where you had to grind through a tower. And he said that was kind of a turnoff for him.
Which tower?
Near the end. If that makes any sense.
Because there's a tower in chapter 12, which is the one you grind at, and then there's another tower where you go to face the final boss.
I think it's that one.
Because the final boss one was super easy for me. It was just like, because all the enemies were just like regular enemies that I could deal with really quickly. So it didn't really. I would say the battle arena tower turned me off way more than the.
Okay, so I think maybe that one, because that sounds like more of a requirement than the other one.
I mean, it's not technically a requirement, but it helps a lot, and it gets you a lot of good items when you complete like the little additional challenges.
Okay. Oh, cool. I'm happy you enjoyed your time with it.
And it got robbed for best RPG.
Did it though?
Yes.
I mean, your feelings towards Final Fantasy VII are pretty well known on the podcast, so I won't say it was robbed, but differing opinions.
It was. Anyways, what have you been playing?
I was intent on going back to Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Sharp FE Encore, because I put it on the back burner.
Oh yeah, I need to play that.
Since I was playing Dark Souls Remastered and My Hero One's Justice. But I ended up diving back into Fire Emblem Three Houses, which might not have been
I still need to do that too.
Which might not have been the wisest thing, because now I'm all up in it. I don't want to put it down because the gameplay is so good.
I mean, that's not a bad thing.
It's not a bad thing, no, but there are more current games, or games,
other newer games to play.
not newer per se, but games that are pertinent to the end of the year discussion that I could have been playing, but I digress. I'm really enjoying Fire Emblem. I was intending to refresh myself on the mechanics and the story a bit, because I picked Blue Lions for my first playthrough, and then ended up dropping the game around the time skip. So now I chose Edelgard and the Black Eagles. So in essence, I'm starting a second route when I shouldn't. So now I'm kind of torn. Do I go back now that I've refreshed myself properly, or do I just continue with the current route? Either way, I'm having fun. It's a really good, really deep RPG, strategy RPG, and it's just so good, so good, and the music is so good. Yeah,
it really is.
Yeah.
It looks really nice too. Like usually Nintendo first party games on Switch manage to look pretty nice.
The only thing I'd complain about that is that the font size of the menus and the dialogue is criminally small. Like
that's just a problem with video games in general.
Sure, but this is just ridiculous. If you're playing on a TV, you might not have an issue with it, but playing handheld, which I usually play in, it's really, really annoying. But yeah, that's all I've been playing. Well, I have been playing a little bit of Fortnite, but
boo, no, I'm just kidding.
I mean, The Mandalorian's in it now, so
yeah, that's cool.
It's suddenly skyrocketed as Game of the Year for me, and also Baby Yoda. So there's that.
His name is Grogu. Excuse you.
Sure, Baby Yoda.
Grogu.
Besides that,
although I was thinking about that, and I was like, well, if he's 50 years old and this happened, he technically could be Yoda's offspring.
Well, the problem with Star Wars is that much of the cast and characters feel insular, like
Yoda and Yaddle's secret offspring.
Yeah, we have to stop thinking about, it's a second generation Kenobi, or oh no, they're related to Palpatine, or the galaxy is much wider than that. So new characters.
I'll keep it in mind when I write my sci-fi JRPG or whatever.
Sure. What else was I gonna say? In terms of game of the year, quick note, because you brushed up on it. My game of the year would probably be either Final Fantasy VII Remake or The Last of Us Part 2.
Well, so for us, I was gonna say we can have a Japan developed game of the year, which Final Fantasy VII Remake fits that, so that's fine. But yeah, Yakuza 7 is just my game of the year in general.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think it's probably Hades.
Okay. Hades, I think it's such a solid game, a beautiful game, a well-made game, but it's not my game of the year. I greatly enjoyed it. I'd give it...
it's not my... Yeah, it's second. It's like second, maybe third place. It depends. We'll see what happens when I finish a couple more things.
I don't know if it's even my second, but that's... Yeah.
Probably on your top 10 at least.
Probably of the year, but that's all subjective. And I'd like to give a special mention to Animal Crossing New Horizons.
That's up there.
Which probably should be game of the year, if we're being honest.
Yeah.
But yeah.
How it just blew up.
Yeah.
Ian and I don't know if you know Foggy, but
yeah, I know Foggy.
They were doing a podcast live stream talking about all the Game Awards stuff, and they were talking about how they think Animal Crossing should be Game of the Year because of like all these different just because of how much it blew up with like just how many people were playing it, and people who don't even play games usually were playing it, and like it was at the start of this pandemic, and it started a whole talk show even. The thing I'd say why its
The Last of Us
impact
Part 2
cannot go
isn't as
unrecognized.
deserving. It isn't as deserving is because it tells a story that is already like the main lesson it's trying to teach you is a lesson we all already know. So it's a thing I struggle with after I played the game is what was the point? It's a beautiful, well-made game, and nothing has stuck with me as hard and as long as The Last of Us Part 2, but at a lot of points in this year, I keep asking myself, why?
Yeah.
And to me, there's no greater signifier of something being a piece of art than asking yourself, why? Mm-hmm. So that's the reason I'd put it as my game of the year. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, that's some good talk. We should probably move on.
Yeah, moving on to the In From Japan J-List, we got a bunch of different news, and I know some of this isn't really gaming related, but this is the last regular podcast of the year. We can go a little off the rails.
Yeah.
So first we have Mamoru Hosoda unveils new anime film Bell for next summer. This is from Anime News Network by Rafael Antonio Pineda. Wow, what a name. Mamoru Hosoda's Studio Chizu Animation Studio announced on Tuesday that Hosoda is working on a new anime film titled Bell, or Ryu to Sobakazu no Hime, literally the Princess of Dragons and Freckles. The film will open in Japan in summer 2021. Hosoda is directing and scripting the film and is also credited for the original work. The film will mark Studio Chizu's 10th anniversary. Studio Chizu's announcement noted that the film will portray an ever-evolving online world that takes place in takes place in an online world called U, which has 5 billion registered users. Studio Chizu mentions Hosoda's past films where virtual worlds play a key role, such as Digimon Adventure, Our War Game, and Summer Wars, as similar titles of exploring modern society, but based on the director's recent insights, and specifically mentions themes of coming of age, family ties, love between parents and children, friendship that transcends species. Okay, like pets. The links between our lives.
I guess.
I hope it means pets, because otherwise. But no, this is one of my favorite animators. Probably I like Studio Chizu films more than Studio Ghibli films, to be honest.
That's fine. You're allowed to.
I don't have anything against Studio Ghibli films. It's just like I like them better.
Like I said, it's fine. You're allowed to.
And the thing I like is that Hosoda does a new film about every 3 years, and he switches between like a more, I don't want to say slice of life, but like a more not. He'll do like a more chill like
Slice
movie,
of life.
and then he'll do an more actiony movie, and then he'll switch between those. His last movie was Mirai, which was really trippy.
Yeah, Mirai, which is Japanese for future.
Future, yeah. I still need to finish watching it. Like, I own all these movies, but I need to finish watching it.
The thing about Hosoda is he likes to let his work reflect facets of his own life, like being a parent, being a child that has a younger sibling in Mirai, for example.
Being a rabbit kung fu master. No, I'm just kidding.
No. In that respect, he kind of is from the Ghibli school of making movies that reflect life, and I think that's why it resonates so well with people, with audiences. Yeah. And he's actually my favorite anime director. I love his stories a lot. And Summer Wars. Summer Wars is, I think, my favorite movie in any media.
I need to rewatch it because, I mean, dude, it's literally just the Digimon movie.
I mean,
it's our war game, but with it makes a little more sense.
Loads of creators iterate on top of their previous works, so I'm fine with it.
Like in my Twitch stream pre-roll that I'm trying to figure out how to use it again. I have the
King Kazuma
fighting Love Machine.
Yeah, I saw it.
It's so cool.
But
yeah, so I'm excited for that.
I'd say even though the fight scenes and the animation were really well done, the thing that makes it my favorite movie is the aspect of family and being surrounded by family and what your role within a family unit means.
Yes.
I mean,
just a. Mm-hmm. No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say being part Asian and seeing a large family reflected so well on screen, it really tugged at my heartstrings.
Quick fun fact: Mamoru Hosoda, he also, I believe, he directed the 6th One Piece movie, which is also the dark. Yeah, it's the darkest one, and you can really tell it's his animation style.
Yeah, it's really well done, really fluid. It's also my favorite One Piece movie.
I've seen scenes from it, but I've never seen the whole movie because, jeez, it gets dark.
It's fine.
It's kind of creepy.
It's maybe a tad creepy, but the darkness is pretty much in line with what you'd see in a typical One Piece arc. So,
well, yeah, the more serious ones, yeah. But and he also was the key animator for the first Broly movie, which is one of my favorite Dragon Ball Z movies.
Yeah.
Even though that Broly is not, I mean, he still exists, but he's not. We have a canon Broly now.
So he doesn't exist anymore.
That movie was animated well too.
So he doesn't exist anymore. We have a different Broly now.
Well, we have 2 Brolys. We have one, just like we have 2 Gogetas.
I mean. No, we have the current one, right? The first one doesn't exist anymore.
I mean, he still exists. He's not canon, but he still exists.
But that's what canon means. Canon means one.
Okay, but he still. You can't just say these movies still exist. So that Broly still exists.
Yes,
existed.
That movie exists.
The Omni King didn't come down and erase him.
But within the canon of Dragon Ball, there is only one Broly, which is the movie that released
the new one
a couple of years ago.
Anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
Speaking of Shonen Jump related things, fully online Jump Festa 2021 event schedule released. This is from Anime News Network by Chusum Lee. As previously announced, the upcoming annual Jump Festa event for this year will be fully online and held at the virtual Jump Fest Island. The full schedule for Jump Festa 2021 online, which runs from December 19th 20th, has recently been released along with additional details. A total of 42 stage presentations will be held throughout the 2-day virtual event, including live streams from special guests at the Makuhari Mess Convention Center, recorded videos, and more. All of these can be experienced at the 3 virtual stages of Jump Fest Island: Jump Super Stage, Jump Studio, and Jump Amusement Tower, or the official Jump Festa website. The Jump Super Stage will primarily feature stage presentations related to anime and media adaptations of Jump serialized manga. The presentations will be streamed live from Makuhari Mess. And then there's a timetable. You got stuff from Dr. Stone, World Triggered, Jujutsu Kaisen, Boruto, and My Hero Academia. And then the next day you got World Ends Harem, Black Clover, New Prince of Tennis. They're making a New Prince of Tennis?
It was a manga like from a few years ago. It's not new.
No, but it's actually called The New Prince of Tennis.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It's from a few years old.
Yeah, I know. Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai and One Piece, and there's some game related stuff too. They're doing stuff for an introduction stage, One Piece Bounty Rush, Jump Fest 2021 Battle Stage, Naruto and Boruto game latest information, Yu-Gi-Oh latest information, Jump Force special stage. Maybe they'll announce more DLC characters.
Yeah, there are, I think, 2 left to announce.
And then there's a Dragon Ball app stage, Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai Crossblade. I think that's the mobile game because that's not the console one. Yu-Gi-Oh! Latest information again, so they'll have even more Yu-Gi-Oh! Information, and Super Dragon Ball Heroes, so they're announcing new cards and probably a new expansion for that arcade game.
Probably.
And then there's a bunch of other stuff like there's stuff for Haikyuu and Blue Exorcist, Chainsaw Man, Demon Slayer, Gintama, Hetalia, Rurouni Kenshin. Ugh. Sorry.
Okay. That's a violent reaction.
Well, you know what that guy did. I shouldn't have highlighted that. My bad.
You're allowed to say what he did.
No, I mean I'm just reading the schedule.
Okay.
Kekai Sensen. Spy Family, Bleach, Burn the Witch, and Promise Neverland. Oh, and some One Piece trivia thing. Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff. So there should be game-related news from that.
Yeah.
I'm excited for like the Yu-Gi-Oh! News and new Naruto game news. Oh, also, I believe
I'm not.
Today is the last day to get. It'll be tomorrow, so you won't be able to get it anymore. And Naruto to Boruto Shinobi Striker on Game Pass. I think today is the last day you can download it.
Okay.
What were you saying?
No, I was going to say I don't think there will be a lot of game announcements. Well, I haven't seen any chatter. The only big game based on a shonen franchise left to be announced or properly revealed is the Kimetsu no Yaiba Demon Slayer game by CyberConnect 2.
Right.
But besides that, there aren't any real big games left.
Well, yeah, but they could always. I could see them announcing a new Naruto game.
Sure. I don't
it
have my hopes up.
Naruto and Boruto game. It didn't say any specific thing.
I don't have my hopes up.
Plus, they need to make a Boruto game.
Well, there is a Boruto game.
What, Road to Boruto?
Yeah.
That doesn't count. That's an expansion.
I mean, there's really not much story to tell as of now.
I've been reading the manga. There's a bit more.
It's really just an expansion of the Naruto manga. So
aliens.
There's just really not enough to justify.
Lots of people from the moon.
Sure. I still think there's not enough to justify a full game.
And then they could put like the card game in as a mini game from that one arc.
Yeah, that's possible.
That would be fun. Okay, next story. This is actually a tweet from Mike Williams, right? From USGamer? Or not from... Formerly USGamer.
Yeah, he's at PC Gamer now?
PC Gamer. Or is it PC Gaming Mag?
One of the two.
PC Mag. Yeah, not PC Gamer.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought it was PC Gamer too. Yeah, so there is a new... We got a brief glimpse of the lead from the next Sentai series, Kikai Sentai Zenkaiger. Did you see this picture?
Yeah, I did.
He looks like a Kamen Rider.
I don't know if I retweeted it, but I definitely liked it.
He looks like... Well, because the whole thing is that this dude is supposed to be the only human on the team, and the rest are just robots.
Okay, that's an interesting choice.
Yeah, well, because I was following a thread on Tokusatsu stuff, and the sales for Sentai have been like just dropping and dropping and dropping ever since Q Ranger, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so this last season has been like so they're trying something way different.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be interesting to see.
Are you excited?
I'm excited that they're trying something so different if the robot rumors are true.
Okay.
The design is inspired, I think. It seems to be inspired by the first Sentai team, Go Ranger. With the cape and the way the goggles look. Or the visor, rather.
What's old is new again.
Yeah. And then, in other Toku news, Kamen Rider Gaim Soccer Battle movie available in English on December 18th. This is from Toku Nation by Toku Chris. In a surprise announcement, Team Kamen Rider shared news that the Kamen Rider Gaim Great Soccer Battle Golden Fruits Cup movie will be added to the Toei Tokusatsu World official YouTube channel at 5 p.m. Pacific Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, December 18th. We reached out to Team Kamen Rider to confirm that yes, the movie will be subtitled in English for Western-speaking fans. The movie takes place during the Kamen Rider game television series, but happens in a parallel dimension. So you don't have to watch the show to watch it, but it could get you interested in the show. Unfortunately, Kamen Rider Gaim the series is not officially available anywhere at the moment.
Okay.
It's a little weird that this isn't airing on Shout Factory and it's airing on the Toei. Toei's been weird about all Kamen Rider lately. Some shows they'll let Shout Factory distribute. Some they gave one show to the Toku HD streaming service, who are apparently kind of sketchy and don't have great subtitles. And then they're doing this on their YouTube channel. And some of the and like a handful of their stuff on their YouTube channel is actually region locked. So,
well, it could be that Shout Factory bought the rights to like a certain catalog that might not contain everything.
And I'm sure it takes a while to do official subs. Sure,
and this might be Toei experimenting with like a full-on English release of something.
Yeah.
So that they could have more control.
Because Shout Factory has done a Kamen Rider movie before too. That was just back in July.
Okay.
So it's just interesting to see this. It might be like just a weird licensing thing that's all over the place. And also, short little thing, Funimation app now available on Nintendo Switch.
Yay, I guess.
Also, the Monster Hunter movie reviews are coming out, and it doesn't look good. Which actually kind of makes me more excited to watch it.
Real quick about the Funimation app on Switch. It's probably going to be region locked on my Switch because I'm not in the States or in Canada.
No.
So I'll probably have no access to any of the content. So call me when Crunchyroll makes its way to the Switch.
If it does.
Yeah. I mean, they're the same company, so something's got to give.
Yeah. All right, so next we have recommended content other than news from the past week listed out, links in the description. So first we have review, Taiko no Tatsujin, Rhythmic Adventure Pack, feels like an OOPArt. I had to look up what that meant. It means out of place artifact.
Well, there you go.
By Jenni Lada over at Siliconera. She doesn't mean that in a bad way either. Like, I was reading the review. I'm like, do you mean it's dated? I was like, oh, no, that's not what any of this says.
So that also means, read reviews, don't make assumptions.
Yeah. Starting screen, long farewells ne'er were necessary, but here I go anyway, by Nadia Oxford over at USGamer. Go support the folks over at USGamer, because the site's going to be available still, but they'll be off at different places, so go support them. Skies of Arcadia developer interview collection by Shmupulations. Why you should play collection of SaGa feature by Lucas White over at Prima Games. So, these SaGa Game Boy games that just re-released, they're apparently, according to this article, they're heavily inspired by the gameplay systems of Final Fantasy II. With the way characters level up.
It makes sense. It's a Game Boy game, and Final Fantasy 2 is near that release.
Well, it has. There's something about like your character's stats increase randomly when you level up. There's no like. It's
set
interesting
path for leveling up.
Yeah. Yeah, I really recommend reading it if you're looking into getting that game, because I'm still looking into it, but after reading that, I'm like, I actually don't know. I can't make heads or tails of if I still want to play this or not.
I mean, you could play the Romancing Saga games. Those are more akin to, I'd say, Final Fantasy 4 through 6.
I believe you mean Romancing Salsa.
No, that's not what I mean.
That's what it looks like it says.
Sure.
Anyway, going on with the recommended content, we also have How Familiar.io's creator fit multiplayer Monster-Taming into a single tweet by Matthew Olson over at USGamer. Review, Monster Sanctuary is a satisfying Metroidvania by Jenni Lada over at Siliconera. 6 Reasons You Should Ditch Netflix Streaming by Mike Williams for PC Mag. It was more, that's the title, but it was more like, don't abandon physical media just yet.
Mm-hmm. If I'm not mistaken, it's more of a why you should buy Blu-ray and Ultra Blu-ray article.
Yeah, because you still can't get like the level of picture, at least from when I was reading, it was saying like, streaming still can't match that.
A digital movie will have compression, will have artifacting, it can stutter, it can lag. There are so many pros when you go physical versus
although
digital.
It can still look really good, so it's not like...
Yeah.
And like some people don't have room or all that other stuff.
Sure, there are also accessibility issues, like you can't buy physical media in a store near you, or you'd have to import them with extra tax on top of the physical media price. So sometimes digital is the only option.
Or the thing just isn't out on physical media for whatever reason.
Yeah. But the inverse is also true, because I can't stream Cowboy Bebop because it's Funimation. So the only way I could watch it legally is to buy it from Amazon.
Yeah. So moving on with recommended content, we also have Cyberpunk 2077 and Yellow Peril in Science Fiction by George Yang for Wired. It's a very interesting article. About the cyberpunk genre as a whole. Is
this one of the reasons why you won't be playing it?
No, there are other reasons. All the other stuff from this week, there are a lot of reasons besides that. Just kind of add it to the pile.
Okay, just pick a day of the week.
Yeah. And then what I learned about death and loss from Monster Rancher 2 as a child by Andrea Sheeran over at The Gamer.
For a second there, I thought you would write that.
Yeah, I did not expect an article about Monster Rancher 2 to pop up this week. And I saw it, I was like, oh, hey. and then Funimation shows to consider watching via the new Switch app by Jenni Lada for Siliconera. So yeah, I mean, this is kind of the I don't want to say, it's kind of like the last week before stuff is kind of winding down for the year, and then a lot of the industry goes on like a holiday break for Christmas and New Year's, at least in the West.
There's also the last few
that's what
games
we decided
on
to
sale.
do as well.
Yeah.
Except for one thing, but we will have a surprise podcast during the break, but we're still working on that.
It's no longer a surprise if you tell them.
It's a surprise if I don't tell them what it is.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
And now it's time.
Shall we continue?
Yes, and now it's time for the news rundown. So I'll let the bearer of bad news, our Shinigami, take it away.
Bankai. So, on to the bad-ish news. First up is GameStop's last-minute console rush puts workers at risk. This is by Ian Walker for Kotaku. A new allocation of PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S bundles brought crowds of hopeful customers to physical GameStop locations over the weekend, according to a report by Bloomberg and corroboration by a Kotaku source. Staffing shortages and the threat of the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic in the United States made employees feel both overwhelmed and unsafe. GameStop workers were first made aware of the allocation on Saturday morning, with just 15 minutes between the internal announcement and the time customers were notified via email. As the next-gen consoles have been nearly impossible to find, stores were almost immediately overwhelmed with phone calls and visitors hoping to get their hands on the limited stock. What was already a stressful situation grew more so when GameStop's point-of-sale system crashed as the event went live, which left crowds waiting for hours in retail locations whose COVID-19 precautions have previously been revealed to be less than perfect. If you click on the article, there is a full breakdown and even more details surrounding this. And from just those few paragraphs, it's like, GameStop, are you trying to kill your customers? What's up, man? Okay.
Yeah. It's like, GameStop, it's like every time they're like, oh, I haven't heard about GameStop in a while, they must be doing a little better, and then something happens like, oh.
Yeah, it's like they saw the news with CD Projekt, I should say, and they were like, hold my beer.
Yeah.
Okay, next up is a report. Hundreds of players have had Genshin Impact accounts stolen, and the developers aren't helping. This is by Cian Mayer.
We've been pronouncing his name wrong.
Is it Cyan?
It's Kian.
No, Kian. Okay.
I just learned that from, I want to say GameSpot After Dark. They were saying, and I was like, is that how you pronounce it?
I mean, we could ask him. This is by Cian Mayer. Okay.
Oh yeah. I
earlier this month, we reported that Earlier this month, we reported that MiHoYo quietly fixed an issue that caused Genshin Impact players' email address to be made publicly available. This, combined with the fact that the game currently lacks two-factor authentication, means that it was relatively easy for people online to brute force the passwords of players all over the world. As a result, dozens of people have reported losses ranging from several hundred to several thousands of dollars, all of which the developer currently refuses to refund. After publishing our original report, we spoke to affected players about their loss. At present, the Genshin Impact subreddit suppresses the vast majority of posts pertaining to hacked accounts, with an official mod stating that they have already received, quote, too many of these posts. You can click on the article for a full breakdown. There's a lot of detail to be.
I'm really glad I didn't use money on that game.
I mean,
because it doesn't require you to put in your credit card info.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. The thing is, if you're not tempted by gacha mechanics, you'll be fine. But if you are one that is prone to gambling and maybe addictive behaviors, steer clear from gacha games. This is just a very unfortunate event.
Mm-hmm.
And it sucks for the customers. I hope MiHoYo manages to rectify this in some fashion.
Yeah.
Okay. All
right.
Well, that was the bad-ish news.
In other news, there is something that I could have put in bad-ish news, but it didn't sound from. You'll find out later, audience.
Do I know what it is?
I mean, it's on the dock, so you can see. You could probably guess which one I'm talking about. It's
not
like
really?
the fourth one down.
I guess we'll see.
When I was reading it, it didn't sound bad. It didn't sound like it was on bad terms or anything. Okay, we'll get to it when we get to it. All right. We didn't put anybody on. Oh, this was just a quick.
I'll
thing.
take it.
Yeah,
I'll take it. First up in the good-ish news is Square Enix trademarks Chocobo Grand Prix in Japan. This is by Sal Romano for Gamatsu. I hope it's a part of our 2021 plans to have Sal Romano on the podcast. So,
we can
Sal,
try.
if you're listening, we extend an official invitation.
That
via
guy is
podcast.
That is a one-man army right there.
Square Enix filed trademarks for Chocobo GP and Chocobo Grand Prix on December 1st in Japan, which were made public today. Chocobo GP was trademarked in English and Japanese, while Chocobo Grand Prix was trademarked in Japanese. The trademark could indicate a successor to the 1999 release PlayStation title Chocobo Racing, which could be in the works. A sequel titled Chocobo Racing 3D was announced for 3DS at E3 2010, but was cancelled in 2013. It could also be tied to an unannounced Final Fantasy XIV or Final Fantasy XI event, or it could be for something else entirely. A lot of could-bes in this article. If I had to guess, it's probably a mobile title. And a Switch title. We'll see. Next up is all you.
So, next topic. Final Fantasy XIV school uniforms head westward as collegiate attire. This is by Jenni Lada for Siliconera. It took about a month, but the Final Fantasy XIV school uniforms are available worldwide. The thing is, they aren't going by that name in other regions, though. No, if you want the Final Fantasy XIV school uniforms with either pants or a skirt, you'll have to search for the collegiate attire. Well, that, and you'll have to have $18. Originally, the outfits were only available in Korea. The Final Fantasy XIV online store now has listings for both versions of the outfit. In each case, you're getting a collegiate blazer, a pair of bottoms, and a certain sort of shoes. It's just listing all the things. I saw Michael tweeting about this because I think he got one for his character. I didn't know it cost money. I don't know if I'd get an outfit like that for $18.
Wait, don't all cosmetic items cost money?
No.
What doesn't then?
I mean, it doesn't cost real money. Like in-game stuff?
You mean
like
there
most
are
armor,
items you can get
most
with
armor
in-game
and
currency.
cosmetics you don't have to pay real money for. Like my big cat man has a tuxedo outfit.
But when I'm talking about cosmetics, I don't mean like proper armor. More like stuff
It's not proper armor. Like you can, because in Final Fantasy XIV you can. Oh, I forgot what it's called. Was it like transmogrify? No, that's not what it's called. It's called something else. But you can change your armor to look like anything else you have.
Yeah, transmogging.
So it's just a little weird that this specific thing. I mean, I know there are outfits that cost real money. It's like I wouldn't personally get this.
That's
At
fine.
least
It's
not for real money.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was. I thought they look nice. That's all I added.
Sure.
And then real quick, there are a bunch of Monster Hunter Rise weapon highlight videos being uploaded. And there's like I think they did all the bows, they did the dual blades, they did the hammer today, and one other thing I think. I forgot I forgot every single weapon they've done so far, but the point is they've been doing a bunch of different weapon highlight videos for it lately, so that's cool.
And if you're like Erroll and have also forgotten what weapons would be included, you can watch the video.
I mean, I main hammer, and then my secondary weapon is dual blade, so I already got my stuff.
Yeah.
And speaking of Monster Hunter director Daisuke Ichihara left Capcom. This is from Siliconera by Kite Stenbuck. Daisuke Ichihara, best known as the director of Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate and Monster Hunter World Iceborne, left Capcom and joined ILCA. The announcement was made during a special interview with ILCA that was published by CG World. ILCA, short for I Love Computer Art, is a company that specializes in 3D CG graphics and movies. It also recently worked with Square Enix and Bandai Namco to produce graphics and trailers for multiple games, including Nier Automata, Dragon Quest XI, Code Vein, and Ace Combat 7. Ichihara assumed the position of director for ILCA's Kyoto development team and is tasked with developing a title at the Kyoto studio. He intends to make each staff member have their own specialties, such as player actions and battle motions, that when gathered together can form a large balanced power and project. CG World's interview also included a quote from Ichihara himself regarding his new position. It's because I only live once. I want to create an organization that can realize proposals from staff members who have something they want to do. I personally joined this company in the middle of my career, but I have a strong desire to see this young organization grow with our own hands. Ichihara's publicly known works from his tenure at Capcom were entirely related to the Monster Hunter series. He was first credited as a planner for the 2015 3DS game Monster Hunter Generations. After that, he worked as a director for the next two Monster Hunter games, Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate and Monster Hunter World Iceborne. So, he just said, like, yeah, I've done what I could here. I'm going to go do this other stuff at this other company. It wasn't like, I don't know, it didn't seem like it was a huge issue.
Yeah, I mean, people leave companies all the time. Someone
People
departing a
and
beloved
it's not always
team
like
or beloved...
it's not always like a bad thing. Maybe he
Yeah.
clearly could still work with Capcom in the future with what that company does.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of do this a lot in the gaming industry, that we attribute a game's success or its good quality to a single person or a group of people, and not like a team of hundreds of people working hard at developing a game. So him leaving is just fine. It's nothing to be worried about, I think.
Yeah, I just think it's still like important news, but like that's why I didn't put it in the badish news section. Okay, next story before I let Jason take it away for a while. Scarlet Nexus details Arashi, Shiden, Kyoka, Kagero, Naomi, and Cullen meet the latest members of the OSF. This is Sauramano for Gamatsu. Bandai Namco has released the newest information and screenshots for brain-punk action RPG Scarlet Nexus, introducing the game's world, dual protagonists, and characters Arashi Spring, Shiden Ritter, Kyoka Eden, Kagero Done, Naomi Randall, and Cullen Travers. There's details on... There's... What? What?
All those Japanese names, and the end there's a Cullen?
There's Naomi Randall, Cullen Travers, yes. He's the bad guy, probably. Right. I don't know. There's a whole thing about there's stuff about the story. I don't really want to read that because we've talked about the story.
Mm-hmm.
The others apparently have existed since ancient times. Deranged mutants that descended from the sky with a hunger for human brains and really strange design. The others, suppression force. Dual protagonists. Scarlet Nexus has two protagonists. Yuito Sumeragi, whose life was saved by a member of the OSF at a young age, and Kasane Randall, an elite scouted by the OSF who was always at the top of her class in training school. A dramatic story awaits players from the perspectives of two protagonists who have joined the OSF as new recruits. Players will start the game by choosing one of the two protagonists. Which protagonist you choose is up to you. By playing as both protagonists, previously unseen truths behind certain events will come to light, such as conflicts between OSF soldiers and the red strings that hold the key to the story. The fate of the world is at hand. I did not know you play as 2 different protagonists.
So we're going to be fighting zombies. Cool.
They're not zombies. They're weird sky people monster things.
That have a craving for human brains.
And have plant faces. Half of them don't even look like they have mouths.
Sure.
And then there's a bunch of summaries about the characters. I don't want to go over everything, but you can go check out that article because it says their powers too.
Yeah.
Like
so click on the article for a full breakdown. For example,
Arashi Spring has hypervelocity. Shiden Ritter has electrokinesis. Kyoka Eden has duplication. Kagero Done has invisibility. Naomi Randall has precognition. Man, she got the short end of the stick. And we don't know what Cullen Travers' power is. I think that's why, and I think he's the villain.
Okay.
Sometimes untalkative, self-confident, and does not mince words, sometimes described as arrogant.
I mean, it sounds like a villain. Or a rival.
Or a secret really good guy who just seems villainous.
I mean, sure.
We'll see. I'm still excited for this game. Looks great. We'll see. Alright, take it away.
Okay, next up is SNK is building a brand new console for 2021. This is by Eric Van Allen for USGamer. The latest generation of console hardware might be out now, but another company is looking to get in the game next year. SNK announced today that a brand new console is coming from the company in 2021. In the announcement image via Twitter, you can see logos for both SNK and Neo Geo. Users are also speculating that the Wi-Fi symbol, over the W in the image might mean what the Wi-Fi symbol over the W in the image might mean, and whether this indicates an online multiplayer-focused console of some sorts. A new console doesn't necessarily mean SNK is going to try to take on Sony and Microsoft. Retro-focused consoles have been popular for many older gaming companies, SNK included. But last year, SNK teased that next-gen Neo Geo hardware was on its way, with a modern design and a wonderful play feeling, and you can even link it to a Neo Geo Mini. The new hardware will provide you a Neo Geo journey that you have never experienced. Read the SNK tweet from August 2019. You can click on the article for extra details. If I had to guess, it probably would be a handheld with all the fighting games, or maybe the most popular of their respective franchises on the device. Is what I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Next up is Tales of... No, wait. I'm not saying that right. Wait.
I meant to ask you, do we need both of these stories, or should we just have the second one?
No, this is fine. This is fine.
Okay.
New Tales of Arise information will appear in 2021. This is by Kazuma Hashimoto for Siliconera. New Tales of Arise information will be released sometime in 2021. Producer Yusuke Tomizawa discussed the development of the upcoming title during the Tales of Series 25th anniversary stream. In his statement, Tomizawa spoke about the game's ongoing development and confirmed that there are plans to release more information about it in 2021. Famitsu provided an excerpt from the broadcast, which translated below. And the quote goes, "We are preparing for 2021 with the intention to release various information. Development is progressing extremely smoothly, so please be patient while we prepare to release new details. We will prepare a lot of information that the Tales fans all over the world can get excited about." End quote. It should also be noted that, according to the producer, they are in their final stages of development. So take that for what it is.
Yeah.
No new news. Next year will be when we get some new details, which is weird because they said the anniversary stream marks the half point of the anniversary, and next year's the second half of the anniversary. And I don't think I've ever heard of anyone else describe an anniversary as
Maybe
such.
they just started it late and they were like, oh crap, well, we'll just do the first half now and the second half later.
I don't know. I mean, like, you have Capcom or Square Enix say this is the anniversary of such and such, and they will still release something like later than the anniversary date, but it would still be in remembrance of the anniversary. So I don't know, man. Next up is you for the Phantasy Star Online 2.
Well, at least it's in the final stages, because, like, you know, the first thing when they're like, oh, there's not going to be any new info this year, like, you know, people get worried, like, oh no, maybe it's having trouble with development. Like,
not
hey,
to
it's in the final stages.
Not to generalize all developers, but CD Projekt also said Cyberpunk is in the final development stages, and look how that turned out. So
yes, but these are different studios.
Sure. I'll see it when I believe it, or I'll believe it when I see it.
You'll see it when you believe it. Wait, what?
Yeah. That's like a Naruto saying right there.
Yeah. Next up, Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis PC closed beta test set for late January 2021 to early February in Japan. Applications available now. This is by Saruman for Gamatsu. SaGa will host a PC closed beta test for Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis in Japan from late January 2021 to early February, the company announced. 2 closed beta tests are planned. The first test is for users who have already played Phantasy Star Online 2. Players can use their character data from Phantasy Star Online 2 during the test. Applications are available now at the Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis official website and will close January 4th, 2021 at 11:59 Japan Standard Time. 50,000 users will be accepted. To apply, you must live in Japan, have an account that has already played Phantasy Star Online 2, and have a PC that meets the closed beta test minimum requirements. They're like, oh, well, it's in Japan. Why do you... Well, because if there's a beta there, hopefully that means there will be a beta here as well. Or an international thing at some point.
Fingers crossed.
I'm hoping.
Okay, next up is The Legend of Heroes Kuro no Kiseki. First details and screenshots. This is by Sal Romano for Gamatsu. Falcom has released the first official information and screenshots for The Legend of Heroes Kuro no Kiseki, the newly announced latest entry in the Trails series and its 40th anniversary commemoration title. It will launch in 2021 in Japan for unannounced platforms. You can click on article for full details. Like, it's a lot, so give it a read.
Yeah,
I mean, the graphics look nice. It's a whole new engine.
Yeah, they usually look pretty good.
A new art direction, and they're probably utilizing the full power of the PS4.
Yeah.
Okay, next up we have Nayuta no Kiseki for PS4. First details and artwork. This is by Sal Romano for Gamatsu. Falcom has released the first official information and artwork for Nayuta no Kiseki Kai, the newly announced PS4 version of the 2012 released PSP action RPG Nayuta no Kiseki. It is due out by summer 2021 in Japan. You can click on article for full details. It should be noted that while it's a Kiseki game, it doesn't have the moniker of The Legend of Heroes, but it is a Trails game, so
well,
I don't know what that means, but
that's what Kiseki is, right?
Yeah. So
I don't know what Nayuta means.
I think, what was it again? They explained it in the Kuro no Kiseki article, so give that a read. Next up is The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 4 for Switch and PC. well, for Switch at least, launches in March 18, 2021 in Japan. This is also by Saruman Fukamatsu. Nippon Ichi Software will release the Switch version of The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 4 on March 18, 2021 in Japan for 6,980 yen. The latest issue of Weekly Famitsu reveals. It will include a large number of previously released downloadable content. The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 4 first launched for PlayStation 4 in September 2018 in Japan. NIS America released the PS4 version on October 27th in North America and November 3rd in Europe, and plans to release the Switch and PC via Steam and GOG versions in 2021. You can click on article for full details.
What was that? What was that exasperated sigh?
No sighs, just me breathing into the mic. Sorry.
Oh, I thought you were just like, why?
No, I mean, if anything, I'd sigh that there are so many Kiseki games to keep up with. So
yeah, there are a lot.
It's all kind of a mess now. Like there are, it's too much. It's too much. It's too much.
Yeah.
But it's too much of a good thing. So
yeah, can never have too much of a good thing.
Well,
speaking of which, Kazutaka Kodaka thinks there could eventually be a new Danganronpa game. This is by Kite Stenbuck for Siliconera. The latest issue of Famitsu includes special coverage celebrating the 10th anniversary of Spike Chunsoft's Danganronpa series. It also has a new interview with Kazutaka Kodaka, the original creator of Danganronpa, who left Spike Chunsoft to found Tokyo Games in 2018. In it, he explained that he believes we could see a new Danganronpa game, and he isn't opposed to being involved. In the anniversary interview, Kotaka said he does not consider Danganronpa to be a finished series. He believes that a new sequel will eventually come out, and he might even join the development for that game. Here are some highlights from the interview. I bragged that Danganronpa V3 was my best masterpiece because I intended to end it neatly. It will be difficult to create a new game that exceeds it. The voices that desire a sequel have gotten stronger. As long as the environment between myself and Spike Chunsoft has been set up, the probability is not zero. I feel like I may be able to make one new game in my future as a creator. I cannot thoughtlessly say which creator I'd like to leave the project to. Kotaro Uchikoshi may be also be a good candidate, but I cannot bring myself to have negative opinions, so it may be better for me to create it myself. Strained laugh. My friend, I didn't get what he meant.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Uchikoshi is kind of his partner in crime for Tokyo Games, so maybe he was saying like, I can't say anything negative about that guy, so maybe I.
What do you think?
He was trying to say there.
Does the series need another entry, or should he just leave it?
I haven't played 3. I haven't played 3 yet, but Danganronpa by Uchikoshi, yeah, I'm in, because that's essentially another Zero Escape.
Sure.
And then we will soon be able to reveal the thing that I have been working on with Spike Chunsoft, which is not Danganronpa.
Get on with it. Let us see what you're working on.
They're working on a lot of stuff. I mean, well, that anime came out. I haven't heard much about that. One anime came out, and
Akudama Drive. It's a really good anime.
Yeah, that one, and then the one game part, the first like half of that one game they were working on came to Apple Arcade, and then comes to Switch next year, and they're working on like 3 other games.
Also, a thing I've recently heard a lot, spoken on podcasts, on Twitter, is that when it comes to announcements related to Japanese developed games, it's more likely than not that the developers or publishers will release info closer to release versus like have something at the beginning of the production cycle and then dish out details piece by piece.
It can be hard, and it can also be hard with, because these are like visual novel games, so they don't want to show. You have to have a balance where, or they're not all visual novels, but they're at least visual novel-ish, very story-based, so you don't want to spoil too much, but you still want to reveal at least enough information that people can get a grasp on the concept, you know?
Yeah. Well, let's hope he releases something sooner than later.
Yeah. Alright, so next is Nioh 2, the first Samurai DLC will include endgame activities. This is by Kazuma Hashimoto for Siliconera. New info regarding Nioh 2, the first Samurai, the final DLC expansion, appeared during an official broadcast about the game. The presentation highlighted new paid and free features that will be added to the game once the expansion releases on December 17th, 2020. Hey, that's today. Some of the inclusions will give players more to do after the end. The first Samurai expansion will add the Dream of Nioh difficulty along with new guardian spirits. The DLC expansion will also feature new yokai for players to encounter, such as the Konaki Jiji and the Itsumade. In addition, a series of new endgame content will be added to Nioh 2 based on the first Nioh Abyss mode. Or the first Nioh's Abyss mode. Nioh 2's The First Samurai DLC will tie up the main story's loose ends. This scenario will be set during the early Heian period. Sending players back into the past, the hero will meet an important figure that resembles a character players will be more than familiar with, provided they beat the base game. Free content will arrive alongside the DLC expansion. The update will add new ninjutsu, onmyo magic, and character customization options. What?
I was gonna say real quick. Nioh 2 currently is being sold on Amazon for $10.
The regular version?
Yeah, the regular version.
How much is the? Can you see how much the like collector's edition? Because it comes with like the season pass and everything.
If I'm not mistaken, the special edition is $60.
Okay, because I got the special edition on sale on Amazon yeah, I got it for $40 when it was on sale a while back.
Yeah,
so
if I'm not mistaken, it normally costs $80, I think. Yeah, $80. And now it's available for $53. I'm seeing.
Yeah.
And the base game is $10. So you might want to snag it, or you might want to wait on the.
You can always wait for the remastered collection that's coming out early next year.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, next up is Bravely Default 2 final demo now available. This is by Sal Romano for Gamatsu. Publisher Nintendo has released the Bravely Default 2 final demo for Switch via the Nintendo eShop. Users who download the demo before the game's release will receive 100 My Nintendo Platinum points. Here's the demo's official description. Experience the game's risk and reward system, character strategy, and stunning visuals in the latest Bravely Default 2 final demo. In this demo, the game's 4 main characters are already on their journey with jobs and abilities at their disposal. Bravely Default 2 is due out for Switch on February 26, 2021 worldwide. And you can read more about the game here and here if you click on the Gamatsu article. Okay. Last up is all you.
Yeah, I meant to say, are you excited for this demo? Because I know you had opinions about the first one.
I have the first demo, or had it downloaded, but I never played it. From what I saw online surrounding the game, it was that the difficulty was too high. So I'm hoping that this one, while being a bit on the easier side, will still provide enough of a challenge.
Yeah. Last story, Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 Update 12 to add Pikkon as playable character in spring 2021. Updates continue 4 years after release. This is by Sal Romano over at Gamatsu once again. Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 will add Pikkon as a playable character in its 12th free update due out in spring 2021, the latest issue of Weekly Jump reveals. In addition to Pikkon, the update will add a Janemba CC mascot and Bardock and Guine's costumes from Dragon Ball Super Broly. Just a short little thing because make Pikkon canon.
Sure. I don't have any strong feelings towards PyCon.
Most people don't. We don't have any listener questions this week. I'm just saying this ahead of time. Main topic, just talking about because we completed a whole year of the podcast.
Yeah. Applause and salutations all around.
And we still have a little time left.
So.
Yeah. No. What were you gonna say? Go ahead.
No. I was waiting for you to start the questions and remembrances and look back.
I mean, we've gotten.
You go ahead. This is your baby. So.
Also, apparently, we're experiencing a little delay in audio, so that's gonna be fun to edit. But yeah, we got a bunch of guests that honestly, if I had started this podcast maybe like a couple years ago, I would never think I'd be able to get them on here. Well, a couple of them. And then hopefully we're gonna have even more guests next year. And returning guests, because we didn't have anybody like return for. We've asked people to return, but scheduling and all that. So it doesn't always work out.
Is that one of the main goals for
to get more guests on? Yes.
With regards to the show, to have who would be your biggest get in terms of a guest for this show?
That's a surprise. I can't reveal that.
No, who would you want? Like, I mean, in the next 2-3 years of the show running, who would you want?
Again, I can't. I don't want to. I want it to be a surprise.
You can't, like.
Okay.
No, pie in the sky. I'm not saying you.
Can I hint? I can do hints. One person who I really would like on here is a very famous YouTuber and voice actor. Is that too generic of a...
I have no idea who that is.
And he was also recently in Yakuza 7. But you'll have to play to figure that out.
Okay. I mean, sure.
And then on the I'd like to have a couple more people from GameSpot if they'd like to come on. Maybe a few folks from IGN.
Putting guests aside, what do you think we managed to accomplish with the podcast? Do you think we stuck to our main goal? Do you think we evolved past it, or do you think
we've definitely improved?
Still have room for improvement?
We've definitely improved over time. Because remember, before I was using like not a very good mic, and like we didn't have the podcast was a little more disorganized, I think. I mean, there was always like a little bit of organization to it, but it was a little more I feel like it was a little more disorganized with how I like, remember, recommended content wasn't called recommended content at first. I was like, wait, that makes more sense.
But are you happy with the state of the podcast now that we're at the end of the first year? Or do you think
for our first year, yeah. For our first year, yeah, I'm pretty happy with it.
Okay, and looking back, what would you have changed, or what would you have approached differently?
Your audio is warping, so I can't.
Okay, I'll repeat it. It's what would you have changed, or what would you have done differently? Now with the bulk of the episodes in rear view.
What would I have changed? I would have tried to get the timing down better, because when Nicole was on, we were talking about that podcast was 3 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
And I was up editing it until 2 in the morning, and there was a thunderstorm outside, and it was, yeah. So if we're ever recording something for a long time, I need to be more prepared for it.
Yeah, it's a production. We're gonna have to be scheduling a lot more going forward, I think, especially if we're gonna be growing the podcast.
Uh-oh. Yeah.
Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay.
I don't know what's going on, because I'm directly connected to my internet, so I have no idea what the issue is.
Yeah. Weird. Okay. Maybe we should cut it a bit shorter, so we have enough salvageable audio for you to
plus
work with.
We don't have anything. We don't have any listener questions. Make sure to keep an eye on the In From Japan Twitter for. We're putting out a survey just for like feedback and what you'd like to see from us in the future. Like if you want to see us split the podcast into several different parts, or if you want what other podcast, what other like type of podcast you'd like us to do. Because like I said, we were kind of reviewing like anime movies too at the beginning, and I was like, maybe we don't need to put all this in one podcast.
But then again, there are just two of us, so
yeah. Well, it might be guests.
Wiser. Sure, but it might be wiser to have a more balanced show that touches on all the facets that we enjoy.
Yeah, but I do want to expand into other stuff so we can talk about other stuff a bit more, and those would likely always have guests on them. Different combinations of people. We'll see what we can pull off.
Yeah.
But the point is, keep an eye out on the In From Japan Twitter for that survey. I'll put it in the description too.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
that's a handy link to have.
Otherwise, I don't think I have anything else. Do you have anything else you want to say?
I think that's where we'll be stopping for this week. Apologies for the technical issues. We will have that sorted for hopefully the next surprise we will be dropping on your timeline.
And when we return next year.
Be cool. Have fun. Be safe.
Stay safe.
Wash your hands,
wear a mask. Wash your hands. Watch anime. Play video games.
Be kind to one another, and we'll see you soon. This has been Erroll, this has been Jason, and we'll see you soon.
Yep, bye. Matane.